Welcome. We are on the 12:30 Wednesday intermediate class, and welcome to our Zoom class. Woohoo! Today we are going to be working on a book number 15, and the songs are Puff the Magic Dragon and Satin Doll. Now today you should all be able to play along with me because these are pretty easy songs. They're pretty straightforward. As a matter of fact, Puff was in one of our red books when we were back doing red books. Um, let's just go straight into the songs if we have nothing else to talk about. All right. Puff the Magic Dragon is a song written by Peter Yarrow of Peter, Paul, and Mary all the way back in 1962. Actually, in 1959, Leonard Lipton wrote a poem at a college and left it on a typewriter of Peter Yarrow. So Yarrow used it to write the lyrics for Puff. Both Lipton and Yarrow have repeatedly stated that this is definitely not a drug song. Sure. First of all, they were both in college at the time. I think their manager told them not to say that. But if you look at the lyrics, it's, like most people, you can believe what you want. I grew up thinking this was a children's song because when it came out, I was watching Captain Kangaroo, and they had Puff the Magic Dragon as a little animated feature special during Captain Kangaroo. So that's how I learned it. So when I found out that it could be a drug song, I was like, oh, no, it can't be. You're ruining my childhood dream. But, just take a look at the words. Puff. First of all, Puff. Then you look at the guy, Little Jackie Paper. Why would you name somebody Mr. Paper with sealing wax and strings and other fancy stuff? Okay. That's enough about that part of it. The song entered the top 40 of the Billboard Hot 100 on March 30th, 1963, and peaked at number 2. It was also number 1 on the adult contemporary charts. The Orlando Magic, now here's some trivia for you, those of you who are basketball fans. The mascot for the Orlando Magic, anybody know? Anybody out there know? No. The Orlando Magic mascot is named Stuff the Magic Dragon. Stuff, as in stuffing the ball into the basket. So there's your trivia for the day. All right. Let's take a look at this. Even though we did have this already, they've got a little bit of a roadmap. It's not too hard. The second page, by the way, we're on page 80 and 81 for this song. You play the entire first page, the second page through line 4. At the end of line 4, you have a first ending, and you see the little 1. At the end of the first ending, you have 2 dots, a thin line, and a thick line. If you want to use your highlighters, that will absolutely help you to know where you're going. For example, if you put a little yellow mark on those repeat dots, and then find where you're going back to. You're going back to the top of the page to the repeat dots, the second measure, the top of page 81. And they're facing the opposite direction. So what you want to do is make that the same color. So if you made these yellow, make this yellow, and your eyes will follow the colors faster than if you just have to look for the repeat signs. The second time you play this, you're going to skip the first ending, jump down to the second ending, and finish the song. Pretty easy. As far as chords, I'm only giving you one new one. That's going to make life easy as well. The top of page 81, first measure, where you have the no chord, you may play a D7 instead of the no chord, which is the lead-in chord for G. Otherwise, if you want a little bit of drama in the middle of the song, go ahead and hit no chord and start the next G. You remember how to make no chords, right? It's any three notes together, any 3 keys, I should say, together on the lower keyboard where your hand is. Now, don't play 3 white ones because 3 white ones will give you a mud chord. You need 2 whites and a black, or 2 blacks and a white, but any 3 consecutive keys will knock out the chord. While you have a background on, the drums will still continue to go so that you do not lose your beat. If you have on a G chord and you do a no chord, it knocks out everything except the drums, so you do not lose your beat. Then when you play the next chord, everything comes back. Questions about the no chord? That should be review for most of you. Okay, what key are we in for this song, and why is that even important? We are in the key of G. G, correct. And it's not necessarily because it's the first chord, even though it is the first chord. It is because it is the last chord. 99 times out of 100, the last chord of the song is the key of the song. Now, why is that important? Do you need to know what the G scale even is? No, you don't need to know that. Do you need to know that the F is going to be sharped every time you see it in the scale? No, because when you have an F that will have the hashtag or tic-tac-toe sign or the pound sign in front of every F. So you don't have to remember that. Back in the piano days, we did have to remember that. But now there will always be a sharp sign in front of those Fs. You can find them all throughout the song. That means that every time you see an F, it's going to be an F sharp, which is the first black key up the keyboard from the F, or the first black key in the set of triplets as far as triple black keys. The B minor chord, which is the second chord. Oh, I'm sorry, we forgot to say why it's important for us to know why the key of G. The only reason you need to know that is so that you know which chord to start your introduction with. You don't want to just hit a C chord and expect it to sound right. You always want to start the song in the key that the song is written so that it gets you in the right key for the song. It also sets up your timing so that you know how fast it's supposed to go. It's actually for you, the player, so that you have a good sense for the song. All right, the B minor, D and B, dogs and butterflies. The second line, you have an E minor. E minor is E and G, elephants and gorillas. Now remember, your minor chords have a mathematical formula. It is always the letter plus 3. The letter plus 3. Now in the case of B minor, you go outside of your little box here. You remember your little box is from C on the bottom to B on the top. You never want to go outside of that area. So if you have B plus 3, you don't want to play a B minor here, and you don't want to play it here. You want to take the one that's outside of the box, put it back in the box, and then play it with that wide stance. D on the bottom, B on the top. The A7 at the end of line 2, remember 7s are optional. That's why they are on the top of the box. You don't have to play the 7. But the mathematical rule for that is the letter minus 2. So your two notes are G and A. And you can just play those with your thumb on the crack of both of the notes at the same time. Or just play A. Third line, the D is just your fourth finger on D. Or if you play the D7, it is C and D, pinky and fourth finger. And guess what? Everything else repeats from there. So you can go on and fill in all the rest of your chords. Feel free to cheat and write them all in. That's okay. Let's do some fingering. G4, 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 G4. F sharp 3, D1, E2, G4, G4. Second line, D1, D1. C2 with a circle, you're crossing it over. C2, D3, C2, B1, D2, G4, 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 G4. E2, F sharp 3, G4, third line A5, G4, 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 F sharp 3, D2, I'm sorry, D1, made you erase, I'm so sorry, D1, E2, E2, G4, G4, D1, D1, C2 with a circle, crossing it over, C2, D3, C2, B1, D2, G4, G4, E2, G4, F sharp 3, A5. Next page, G4, F sharp 3. G4, 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 F sharp 3, D1, E2, G4, G4. Second line, D1, D1. C2 with a circle. Are you noticing a pattern? These little folk songs just repeat all over and over and over. C2, C2, D3, C2, B1, D2, G4, 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 E2, F sharp 3, G4. Third line, A5, G4, 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 F sharp 3, D1, E2, G4, G4, D1, D1. Fourth line, C2 with a circle, you're crossing it over, C2, D3, C2, B1, D2, G4, 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 first ending, E2, G4, F sharp 3, A5, G4, F sharp 3. Let's go to the second ending, E2, G4, F sharp 3, A5, G4. It's the same as the first ending. They just stretched it out and made the notes longer. That's all it was. Okay, you notice the first measure and a couple of other places within the song. You have a quarter note, and then you have that little symbol that looks like a little 7 with a little bally on the top. What is that? That is an eighth rest. It's a quick breath. It gets the same amount of time as an eighth note, which happens to be right next door to it. You have a G eighth note, which is a black note with a flag and a stem and a flag. The eighth rest plus the eighth note equals one beat, one quarter note. So all you're going to do is take a quick little breath, puff, the magic, and then you play the second G a little bit shorter. That's all it is. You just take a quick little breath right there. Any questions so far? Nope, we're good? Okay. Backgrounds. This does come up in song setup. It comes up at contempo, folk style. Imagine that. Peter, Paul, and Mary are a folk group, and it comes up to folk style. Who'd have thunk it? And it comes up at 115 beats per minute, and it has the guitar and flute combination, which is very folksy, by the way. And here we go with the intro, using my green thumb to start Puff the Magic Dragon in the key of G. What other backgrounds would work on that? By the way, sounds on that were the guitar and flute on the top and a flute on the bottom. Very folksy type instruments. Guitars are always going to work. You can never go wrong with a good organ, by the way, or a pretty piano. That's going to be fine too. Now, if you're on other organs, go ahead. Question? Okay. If you were on other organs, the easy organs, the smooth guitarist works very well. Smooth guitarist, which is guitars 4/4. Also, if you're on a larger instrument, if you go to your pianist and guitarist backgrounds, guitars 4/4 is a fabulous choice, and I'll actually play it on that in a minute. If you are on a Freedom 3, country acoustic guitar is very nice with this. Smooth full band works well. Smooth guitarist works well. You can also go to the standard guitar and play it on guitar swing, but it does change the flavor a little bit to play it on a swing background. Interesting, because they have swing written at the top, and that would not be my first choice, but it does work. It does work. It just changes how you feel about the song or what kind of flavor you use. If I go to the guitars 4/4 and I went to the guitarist background, if you remember, your guitarist shows up with no drummer, so you have to add that drummer. Or if you're on a larger instrument, just go immediately to rhythm preset number 10 and it will add that drummer for you. That's just a quick little thing to know. If you're sitting on any of the guitarist or pianist backgrounds and you're on the rhythm preset 0, it will just have the pianist or the guitarist by themselves, no drummer. If you immediately go to rhythm preset 10, it usually just brings up the same sounds with the drummer in place. Just makes things very quick for you. But this is very nice too. Guitars 4/4, G for your introduction. Put on a duet. Okay, so every time you play a different verse, you could change a preset or do a one-button push to change a preset. So what you could do is, like I just did, change it to a duet, add a little harmony. Or if you're on a guitar, you might want to add a tab. A tab would be your flutes, your strings, your vocals. I usually like to add a string 16 because that just kind of fills it out a little bit. Then when you hit the duet, now you've got a real big fat sound that's going to finish another verse. The other option is to always just put your hand on the lower keyboard and you will have that automatic second sound. And go ahead and mark it in your music so you know where you actually want to do that. Okay, this song was actually fairly simple. That's it for this song. Just have fun playing it.
It's just one question.
Yeah.
Seems to me that the song was a whole lot longer than this. There were several other verses.
Yeah, there could be. Yeah, this is easy play. If you look it up online, you can probably find more verses. I'm sure there's plenty of extra verses on this. And in between the verses, you can always also use that wonderful arranging tool called transpose. If you get to the bottom of the first ending and you want to go back and play it a second time, go ahead and pop your transpose up one step, and it'll give you a little bit of an arrangement.
Is that what you mean?
Dawn?
Yes?
Well, if you like it up an octave higher, what was the thing that we wrote on the top to tell us to go an octave higher?
8VA. 8
With little dot, dot, dot?
Okay. And with a little dot, dot, dot over it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Because as you noticed, you probably did notice, when I started down here, which is usually a nice place to start, it was a little low. So I automatically upped my hand to the next octave. So to remind yourself of that, that's actually a very good point. You could just write 8VA, and then you'll just remind yourself, start in this octave up here, and it will sound better. It always depends on your sound, by the way. Remember, there is no middle C on these. You can choose whichever range you want depending upon which sound you're actually using. What sounds better? Does it sound better here? Does it sound better here? And it's going to be different for every song. It's going to be different for every preset. So yes, use that 8VA ... to mark where you're going to actually be playing octave up. Good point. Very nice. All right, let's turn to Satin Doll. I could give you some very hard chords here. I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it kind of simple. I will tell you, you can put in lots of sevens. Now, you remember, sevens are optional. Optional. What do we know about Satin Doll? This was a jazz standard by Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn. The lyrics by Johnny Mercer, written in 1953. It's been recorded by lots and lots and lots of people. Ella Fitzgerald, the 101 Strings. Yes, there really was a group called 101 Strings. Nancy Wilson. Mercer was often asked to write lyrics to already popular songs, and this is no different. Satin Doll was actually an instrumental version that was already a hit song. And then Mercer came in to write the lyrics, and he, once they did that, they started using the vocalists in Ellington's band, and he used it as his closing number for most of his concerts. So that's a little bit of Duke Ellington trivia. Other people who did this would be Peggy Lee, the Coasters, Harry James. So if you want to use trumpet on this, you know you can got the go-ahead. How about this? The group Chicago. Really? Seriously? So lots of brass in Chicago, so you can use that. Oscar Peterson and Joe Sample. So a lot of jazzers did Satin Doll because it is. It's just a nice jazz standard written with pairs of chords, D7 to D minor 7 to G7, and then in the second line you've got more pairs, E minor to A. So it's an interesting written song. First line, if you wish, you can put a 7 on every single chord there. D minor 7 is C, D, F. G7 is F, G. D minor 7, C, D, F. G7, F, G. Next line. E minor, you may put a 7 on it. D, E, G. A7, G, and A. Remember, the 7s are all optional. E minor 7, D, E, G. A7, G, A. Now, cross out the C minor. Let's replace that with A minor or A minor 7. C, G, A. D7, if you wish to play it, is C and D. Now, in the next line, we have two chords that we don't see very often. A flat minor. You may put a 7 on that. A flat minor is A flat and B. A flat and B. And if you wish to play it as an A flat minor 7, it's G flat, A flat, and B. So that's going to be a tricky chord all by itself. D flat, same as C sharp, and if you wish, you can make it a D flat 7, which would be D flat and B. First ending, the C chord is good for 2 counts. We're going to add 3 more chords to that first ending. Beat 3, which is over the half rest. The half rest is the little rectangle sitting on top of the B line. Put in a D minor or D minor 7. C, D, F. The next measure, you have a whole rest. The whole rest is the rectangle that sits underneath the D line, the 4th line. First beat, E minor or E minor 7, which is D, E, G for 2 counts. and beat 3 halfway through the measure, A or A7, G and A. That just gives you a nice little chord progression to take you back to the beginning of the song and play verse 2. I love the lyrics on this. It's just so so classically, what is it, 1930s, 1940s, when they used words like wigs me. It wigs me, man. Really? Okay, let's go to the second ending. The C chord is good for 2 counts. Over the half rest, the last 2 beats of the measure, put an F or an F7. E flat and F. The first beat of the next measure, over the half rest. First beat, go back to plain old C, chicken. Next measure. Put a 7 on the G minor if you wish. 7s are optional. You must play the G and B flat. You may play an F, G, and B flat. Again, we're looking at pairs of notes. The C is just C, or C7 is C and B flat. Let's go to the top of the page. You may put a 7 on the G minor, F, G, B flat, C7, C, and B flat. Now we're going to add some chords. Make that F an F major 7. F, capital M-A-J 7, remember the rule, is the letter -1. So it's the key directly to the left. So it's E and F. If that's the only new chord you decide to learn today, it's a pretty one to learn. That's good for 2 counts. Beat 3 over the half rest, the rectangle sitting on top of the line. G minor or G minor 7. F, G, B flat. The last measure in line 1 over the half rest, beat 1. A minor or A minor 7. C, G, A. Over the quarter rest, beat 3. Put in a B flat minor, which is D flat and B flat. Dog flat and butterfly flat. You may make it a B flat minor 7, which would be D flat, A flat, and B flat. That's a little harder to play. The next line, make the A minor an A minor 7. C, G, A. Make the next A minor. The D7 is C and D. Make the next A minor an A minor 7. C, G, A. The D7 is C and D. The G7 is F and G. You may put a 7 on that last D minor in line 2. C, D, F. The next line, you may add 7s to the D minors. Pretty much everything repeating here. The next line, you may add 7s to the 2 E minors. And the C minor, you may play the C minor, or you can cross it out and replace it with an A minor, just like we did on the first page. A minor or A minor 7 instead of the C minor. The last line, there's those 2 hard chords again. A flat minor, which is A flat and B, or you may make it a 7, which would be G flat, A flat, and B. And then the D flat, all the way down here, it's the same as a C sharp, and you may make it a D flat 7, which would be D flat and B. And then it ends in C. So, after what we just learned about the last song, what key is Satin Doll written in?
C.
C, absolutely C. It is not the key of D minor at all. Okay? Especially with a 7 chord, that should tell you right away. 7 chords are usually never the key. Usually never the key. So the last chord is C. So if you are starting with an introduction, you definitely want to start with a C chord. And then when you come in, just come in on that D minor chord, and it will sound right. It will sound right. Don't start with that D minor chord. It's not going to make it sound at all. Okay, let's do some fingering. A2, G1, A2, G1, A2. A2, G1, A2. Second line. B3, A2, B3, A2, B3. B3, A2, B3. The next set is D5, C4, D5. Third line, B flat 3, A flat 2, B flat 3, G1. Let's go to the second ending. Fourth line, G1. G1, C4, B flat 3, A2, G1, A2, B flat 3. Top of the second page, C4, B flat 3, A2, G1, A2, B flat 3, C4. C4 at the end of the line. Line 2, D5, C4, B3, A2, B3, C4, D5, C4, B3, A2, B3, C4, D5. Now, the next measure, it says you're supposed to speak. Switcheroony. Switcheroony. I actually put some notes in there. The notes I used were D on the fourth line, and these are optional. E on the fourth space. C on the third space. And then back to D on the fourth line. So you could actually do a switcheroony. Let's give it some volume. You'd play your chord first and then play switcheroony. Or if you want to hire a neighbor kid to come in, you could have him yell it out, switcheroony, when you get to that part. All right, let's go to telephone numbers. A2, G1, A2. G1, A2. A2, G1, A2. B3, A2, B3, A2, B3. B3, A2, B3. D5, C4, D5. And the last line, B flat 3, A flat 2, B flat 3, and G1. Did I lose anybody? It's not, these two songs, neither one of them are that difficult. They're just fun songs to play.
Could you give me the notes for the switcheroony again?
Yes, ma'am. Switcheroony. D on the fourth line.
Yep.
E on the fourth space. C on the third space.
Yep.
And D, back to D on the fourth line.
Oh, D. Okay, thank you.
D, E, C, D. Yep. Now, what kind of backgrounds did I use? Well, go to your song setup. Always check song setup first. And this one comes up to this particular organ, which, by the way, is a beautiful symphony. And if anybody's in the market for a beautiful symphony, talk to me after the class. All right. Satin Lady is the name of the signature background that comes up with Satin Doll. But this also works on plain old swing band. If you go to your big band with no variation or variation at the very top, it's going to say swing band. We're going to use that one too. One of my favorite rhythms is Jazz Club, which is under the swing button. Jazz Club at 107. Everything's at 107. The smaller instruments, if you are on the easy instruments, standard full band, which is Frank and the Count, is perfect. And these are by far not the only ones. This works on so many different things. You could do this on Latin and make it sound fabulous. If you are also on the easies, traditional guitarist gives you that jazz club feeling. If you are on a Freedom 3, I believe it is the mellow, it's your standard. Should have written it down. It's the standard, it's the first one that comes up in your standard. The swing time, that's the one. Okay, let's try Satin Doll with Satin Lady, and I'm using the C chord for my introduction. That last phrase, and that my satin doll, just going back up to the second to the last line, the last measure, and just repeating, and then you can just fade it out on that. And that works very well, just to go back and repeat that. Okay. Any of your big band sounds are going to be fabulous. Piano's going to be fabulous on this. Your saxophones, your horns, anything's going to work on this. Experiment. This is a good one to start noodling. And by noodling, I just mean throw in some grace notes, throw in a couple extra notes, bounce on it a little bit. Okay, this is everybody's favorite big band, swing band. And again, I'm going to start with my pinky on the C chord. Go straight to the bridge. Okay, that one worked too, didn't it? And the last one I tried it on was Jazz Club. Jazz club just gives it a little smaller group, like you're sitting in the lounge, and you've got your favorite jazz band up there. And here we go. Again, start with pinky on C. Do not be tempted to play that D minor chord. If you have to write yourself a little note up here, write yourself a little note. Intro in C. It's so easy for us to just play that first chord, but it's not going to sound if you do that. So keep it on that C chord. Lots of effects. Fade it out. Okay, now if you don't have a fade out button, what do? Pull back on your foot. Your volume control, it's an expression pedal, but just pull back on your foot pedal until it gets all the way back and it's the lowest sound it can go. Now if you're still hearing stuff, you're going to have to reach up to your master control and just bring that down until everything fades out. It does get a little trickier. For those of you who don't have a fade out button and would like one, see me after the class. I'll be more than happy to help you out with that feature. Okay, any questions about what we did today? It was pretty easy. This was a pretty easy lesson today. And sometimes the songs are just like that. And a good song is a good song. Play it the way you feel it. Play it the way you sing it. Bounce on the notes. Have a good time with both songs. They're two completely different styles, but they're both really fun to play. And when you play songs that are easy, you feel like you're a successful player, and you should. You should pat yourself on the back, give yourself some applause. Use your applause button, and just enjoy the songs. Okay, next week. What are we going to do next week? Sing from Sesame Street. That's a pretty easy one too. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. Yeah, we'll do both of those. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes I can actually doctor up pretty well, but seeing as how this is an intermediate class, I'll see if I can't keep it a little more on the simple side because there's a lot of notes in that. So we'll do the next two songs, Sing and Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. Now we are getting closer. We got a couple of good weeks left yet. When we get to the end of this book, we're going to need to choose a new book. So I want some of you to start looking and see what would be a good book for us to go to, and I'll email me with some suggestions, and we will take a vote on it in class one day. I'll just hold up the books, and you guys can put it in the chat or email me which one you want, and we'll see what happens. And then we can order books for anybody that might need them, and start a new book when we're done with this. So just when we're done with the book, that doesn't mean class is over. That means we graduate to the next book. Okay, I will try to keep this class as intermediate as possible. If you want to be pushed harder, then the Friday class is the intermediate advanced class, and then my 2 Monday and Tuesday classes will push you to the limits to the best of my ability. Any questions about what we did today? Nope? Okay, did you have fun? Did you learn one thing? If you learned one thing, then you are 100% successful. Yes. Yep. Very good. Call or email me if you have any questions, and we will see you next time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dawn.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye.